This is Creative Banter. The thread which weaves our conversation together this week is our desire for connecting more deeply with nature. From planes powered by humans to barefoot hiking shoes, Ben and I continue to consider how we may better change our lives to be more natural. Further, I contemplate whether recent events are some sort of sign that the path I'm currently taking is the correct one. Our artist of the week is Brett Denon. So let's dive right into this, shall we?
Immediately before recording video, Oliver was barking because I was getting a lawnmower delivered, but that's another topic. But just before that, I was on YouTube just uploading video, and then within the suggested videos, there's one that popped up which was interesting, and this isn't really a topic that's going anywhere other than just I thought it was fascinating. It was a human-powered flight competition in Japan. This guy was in this pedal-powered airplane, and he's launched from this ramp, kind of like a large paper airplane. There's one guy kind of like running with it and kind of, tossing it into the air. And then he starts pedaling, and he went for 38 miles.
Damn.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. It showed him afterwards, and there's like all these boats that are chasing him, and he has to kind of go out, around this pylon. So it's not just going straight. I mean, he's, navigating it. But then it showed him at the end when he finally touches down it was 60 kilometers, which was 37 miles. And, it touches down in the water. And then he gets out, and his legs, I mean, he's a little skinny guy, but with massive legs. But and I was just looking at that because he's wearing a bicycle helmet. He's wearing like this spandex bodysuit. I'm like, this is next level spandex work right here.
Yeah,
this is something that I can aspire to, but will never achieve. So just a little side note of something fascinating that I didn't realize that was possible. But thanks to YouTube, now I know.
Yeah, there you go. I mean,
yeah,
I have no idea where to go with that. I don't.
Yeah. That's just crazy stuff. And actually, on a little bit on note to something. Have you seen on Netflix the Physical 100 series?
Is that dubbed Korean?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think my girlfriend and I were gonna watch. I think we watched like one episode, and then I can be weird when it comes to that dubbed stuff because I focus too much on like the lips, and it just throws me off sometimes.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was very interesting, and then for some reason we didn't watch any more of it. We watched like the first episode or two.
We managed to stumble upon the first season. I don't know whether it was a year or two ago. I forget when it was that it came out, but it was just something, I think it was like a suggested or a trending thing on Netflix. And we watched it, and we were oddly fascinated by it. And it's not the sort of thing that either my wife and I would say, hey, this is something that we're going to get into and that we're going to enjoy. But for whatever reason, there's something about it that is really fascinating. I think it's this fact that everyone is so nice to each other, and it's dubbed, but I think they have like voice actors for each person for the most part. And they actually go through the effort of trying to capture the inflection and everything. Mm-hmm. But it's just such a nice break from the very divisive world that we live in, where people are nice. They're competing very hard against each other in all these physical tasks and stuff that they have to do. And there's all kinds of teams and stuff. But at the same time, they are very nice to each other. And it has just been quite enjoyable from that standpoint. So we're partway through the second season. I think we liked the first season a little bit better. The second season, I feel like they're getting a little too complex, where it's a little hard to follow some of the stuff.
Okay.
But it's kind of fun. It's kind of refreshing. So that's just something we've been watching lately, which has been kind of fun. But I think it's just for that reason that they're just nice to each other. It's nice.
Yeah, I find that to be so much better when you're watching, especially competition shows. Like we've talked in the past that seems to be a difference between American competition shows and like those in the UK and overseas. Where the American ones are very focused on winning and the solo identity versus the group identity. And
Yeah.
my girlfriend and I were watching, what was it, Lego Masters, and we were watching the 4th season of that, and she had never seen it before. But as we're watching through it, it's that same thing that everyone is competing, but at the same time, everyone's having fun together, and like they're messing with each other, and like not in any kind of malicious way, but just joking with each other. They, in one of the episodes, everybody else finished with their build with like 5 or 10 minutes to spare. And this one group was doing this insane build, and you started seeing like these other groups come in to help them. And to like, it was just one of those like tear wrenching kind of moments. Like, this is how competition should be. Like, yes, you are competing against one another. Obviously you want to win, you want your group to win, but at the end of the day, like, it's all about having fun too and enjoying the time there and learning and having that experience. Yeah.
And a very similar thing happened in the Physical 100 show, where there was 3 teams trying to complete these, same tasks, and 2 of them finished first. And then there was this final team. There's one guy struggling doing this thing. And then everyone else from the teams that already finished, they basically push him across the finish line. So it's nice to see that. It gives a little hope for humanity.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the scene in, what was that, in the first Cars, when Lightning McQueen pushes the competition over the racetrack and he takes second, even though he really wanted to win first. Just, you know.
Yeah. And actually, on a complete opposite note of that, so I went for a ride yesterday, 60 miles, just like the normal route that I do up the coast. And there's a stereotype, and I'll let you kind of build this stereotype in your imagination as you're listening. But there's a stereotype for a particular type of driver in a particular type of vehicle that is extremely aggressive for no apparent reason whatsoever. So you probably have a little something in your mind.
I've got a few. Yeah.
Yeah. So going along the coast, it's a very frequently cycled area. Like, if I look at Strava each day, there's, like 100 something riders that are using that app. They're going up and down the coast each day. And it's a pretty mellow ride. And there's all these little beach towns that are connected along the highway there. And by highway, it's for the most part a 2-lane road with bike lanes, on either side. But then, there'll be bike lanes as you're going through the areas. And then all of a sudden you reach one of these towns and the bike lanes will oftentimes disappear. But then you have 2 lanes going in either direction. And they have it where the lane that's closest to the curb, it says, bikes can use the full lane because that's the only way you're really getting through. And we're talking really mellow beach cities, restaurants along the sidewalks, people out and about walking. And this one town, Encinitas, which is a pretty cool little beach town. And once you're going through the downtown area of Encinitas, just imagine cafes on either side. Each block, there's a stop sign or a stoplight. And so going along, and eventually the bike lane goes down into the point where the bike lane disappears, and then you have 2 lanes that emerge. And so you always, look behind you and stuff, make sure everything's good, signal over, and then, you take the right lane. And I'm cycling at the same speed as traffic. It's like, 30 miles an hour, maybe 35 through there or something like that. So at that point, you're basically just a car. And for whatever reason, there was this is when the stereotypes, you get to see how accurate you are. There was a very angry, middle-aged white man in a white pickup truck.
Yep.
Yeah. Who was on the lane to the left of me. And like, he had come up from behind me. So I had, nothing to do with me. I'm just doing my own thing. And he decides to roll down his windows, shout at me, and then merge into the lane that I'm in without using a turn signal, just out of the blue. And so he had so much hatred, and he was yelling at me like, "How does it feel now to be cut off by by someone or whatever?" Because of it, I'm one to follow rules.
Yeah.
So I'm stopping at stop signs. I'm stopping at stoplights. I'm doing everything. I'm basically a two-wheel car. But he had so much hate in him, and then eventually we pull up to a stoplight, and I'm behind him, and he rolls out the window. And he's just still shouting at me, and I say, just to let you know, I have this whole thing. I'm recording the whole thing, and it's not a good look. And there's like a cafe next to the sidewalk with people eating and stuff. Just so stereotypical. And last week, same thing. Another angry middle-aged white man in a pickup truck just decides that he hates me just purely for existing. And I don't know. It's weird because it's not like it's almost like I'm not a gamer or anything, but it's like the non-player characters of just a stereotypical angry white man in pickup truck who has rage issues. But it's like, come on. It's like seeing one of those internet trolls in real life. It's like, oh, they do exist in real life. They don't just hide in basements. And yeah. So that was yesterday. But the funny thing is, like, I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like this is whatever. It made me still feel bad for the person in a way that they're just filled with that much anger. I don't know. The vast majority of people that I run into is probably not the right word. The vast majority of people that I interact with, as far as drivers and stuff, they are amazing. They will, they're great. But it's just that one little group of people that are just very sad, sorry individuals and have to try to take it out on everyone else. But so that was yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know. I don't understand it either. And I don't think anybody truly does. Like, clearly there's something else going on in their life that is, they just need to vent out their frustrations in some other manner that they can't otherwise. But I don't know. I just, like, don't get me wrong. On the other side of things, if I'm behind like a bicyclist, especially on like more main roads, it's annoying, especially if they're not going to speed and I can't get around them in any way. But that's also because, at least where I'm at, we don't have the infrastructure for proper bike lanes like anywhere. Yeah. So they're doing the best that they can. And I would like to get where I'm going. A little bit faster would be nice. But you just have to, at the end of the day, you just have to realize, like, is it really that important to be there like 5 minutes earlier than you need to be? Or it's really not going to take up that much time.
And in this case, this guy, it's not even as though he was trying to get somewhere faster, because otherwise he would have stayed in the lane that was going faster. Yeah. And the funny thing, though, is that I passed him at the next light, and then I passed him at the next light. So you're not going as fast as you're being beat by a bicyclist. Yeah. But I go out of my way when I'm cycling to, if I'll wave at drivers. I'm very attentive to stuff like that. And so, but there's people like that out in the world, and that's just one of the things you got to deal with, whether it's a YouTube comment section or whether it's a lifted white pickup truck. It's always a white pickup truck too. I don't know why. Maybe it's just like the most basic color and matches the individual. I don't know.
Let's bring this over to photography a little bit more for once.
We're known to do that from time to time.
Yeah. So something that I noticed, and I don't know if I'm necessarily surprised by it, or I guess surprised would be the right word, but not necessarily in a bad way, that you are one of the judges for NLPA this year.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun little turn of events. They reached out to me and asked if I wanted to do that, and figured sure. My main thing is typically it has aligned more or less with my fall trip. And certainly if it was happening during the normal time in terms of the judging process, I wouldn't have been able to do it because I would have been busy doing stuff, because my summers are slow. Mm-hmm. Fall really picks up. But they've shifted the whole competition a little bit earlier this year. So it actually fits in the summer months more so, summer months into early fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll be a fun kind of experience. There'll be some very intensive days with a lot of looking at images and, you know, everything else that's associated with it. But I do think it'll be I do think it'll be an interesting experience to go through that process. And I do, as a person who has entered that contest in the past, I do appreciate how they rotate the judges, where it's not the same panel of judges every year. And so I think that's also something that's kind of neat. But I thought it was fun. Oftentimes, if there's something that's I'm asked to do as far as like a speaking thing or this or that, I'm not as much interested in that in terms of like the, teaching type events or seminars or stuff like that. But I think the judging will be interesting. So I'm looking forward to that, especially since it'll be mostly during the summer months when things are a little bit quieter anyways. Yeah,
like I said, I was a little surprised when I ended up noticing it. I think Matt posted something about it in the Discord, in the Landscape Photographers Worldwide Discord. And like you said, I definitely appreciate how they go about doing things and what they stand for.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And like you said, with the judging, I think the only judge that they reused was
Victoria. Was
it? Or because I know Theo Bosboon was twice as well.
Oh God. I see what you're saying in terms of going with. I thought you meant from last year to this year. But yeah, I believe Theo's been on several years.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still like that still changes a lot, even year to year. But still, to have it where it's a rotating base of judges is definitely nice, because not everyone is going to see the same scenes or the same photographs in the same manner.
For sure.
I'm curious now if maybe I'll enter and might have a leg up,
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, no.
I think you have to shoot color to get the...
come on. I have to shoot color in Zion or Death Valley. Great.
Yes.
I better get my tickets booked pretty quick then.
Yeah. Another thing over the past week or so is this is the time of year where I start thinking ahead in terms of the spring backpacking trip. So even though I haven't, the first of the videos will have gone live by the time this airs, but all the videos are done. And so most of all that work is now done. So I start thinking ahead for my spring backpacking trip. And after some of the talk that we've had like last year at some point, when I decided to try out the barefoot running shoes, I was curious to try some of the barefoot hiking boots to see how those do. So about a week or so ago, I got a pair of, they're from Vivo. They are the Tracker Decon FG2 hiking boots, because I really have enjoyed the feeling a little bit more, feeling more part of the environment as opposed to feeling isolated from it. Because traditional hiking boots, they have like a very thick layer in them that makes it very uniform with every footstep, where you don't feel the ground, you don't feel the rocks. So I got this pair of boots. I took them for a test hike the other day, and there's this area with these like sharp, pointy pyramid type rocks, and I was walking on them. It was fine. I started like jamming my foot down on top of them, and it was fine. You feel them.
Yeah.
There's no discomfort. But I think that they will probably be fine for doing the backpacking trip. The only thing that will take a little getting used to is it has a wider toe box, so you use your toes more than if you were just in regular hiking boots, where it's this, you might as well have like a horse hoof or whatever, where just your foot becomes one solid mass. But since you have this wider toe box, so you can move your feet and your toes around a little bit, and it's also a lot more flexible, there's more space in the front of the boot. And so you just have to make sure you tie them tight enough so that your foot sits back. But I was pretty impressed with them. So I'll do a few more test hikes with them, see how they compare. But I do wonder if that will give a little bit more of a connection to the environment when I eventually go on the backpacking trip, probably in early May or something like that. So that was another little test I did this week that I think probably went pretty well.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like you said, that connection to the environment thing is just huge. I mean, I went out on a 3.5 mile walk in the woods with Emmy this morning. And
nice.
It's part of something that I've been trying to do more recently, like every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, just take her out for a long walk in the woods. And gets me out of the house, gets me writing and thinking a little bit more fluidly.
Yeah.
It's just nice to do. And I've always wanted to walk barefoot in the woods. And I've done it before, but the last time that I did it, I ended up stepping on like a stick that I didn't see, and it kind of like punctured my foot.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. So that definitely gives me thought towards like barefoot shoes or like hiking boots, like you were saying about some sort of protection, but also like a nice middle ground, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's just, like we've talked about before, there's something to be said about connecting more deeply with nature, stopping to look at things more intricately and see things that so many other people typically pass by. Like the other day when I went out, because of the recent rain that we've been having, there were slugs, little black slugs along some of the trails. And as much as it annoyed Emmy because she started whining and wanted to continue on for other smells and sniffs, just stopped and watched them for a few moments, just as they went over the little gravel pieces that were on the trail, and just little moments like that, connecting with nature in such the more intricate and intimate way is definitely beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know I've mentioned this in a past episode, but back in 2019, when I went on a backpacking trip and I went up swimming in the water when I wasn't trying to, and blah, blah, blah. And so I was letting my boots dry in the sun, and meanwhile, just kind of relaxing in this side canyon. But just the fact that I was walking around barefoot in this damp sand in this cool little side canyon with this cottonwood tree there and some grass and little pools of water and stuff, it just made me feel so much more connected to the environment. It made it seem more real, as opposed to when you're isolated from it. You're deprived of some of those senses. And definitely, just as you had mentioned, stopping and slowing down and noticing things, I really had no choice but to stop and slow down in that case, because there's like this one little damp area where I could walk around, and beyond that, it was like, sharp rocks and stuff. So I was literally confined to that small area.
Yeah.
But I did notice some interesting things in the process. So I do think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this morning when I went out, we had gotten a bunch of rain yesterday, and it was just like the conditions were great in terms of everything was still damp. Everything had like that kind of, I don't know how to describe it, just like a moist feel to it that was just very pleasant.
Was it in the morning, or what time of day was it?
I think I got to the park around 11 in the morning.
Okay.
So late, like
midday-ish, late morning. Yeah.
But it had been raining earlier in the morning, so that helped everything too. But just overcast skies, and I even got to this one part of the trail, and I just had to stop and just take it all in, because I'd never seen the forest on the East Coast look so much like what you see like on the West Coast in Washington and Oregon, in terms of all
the so lush.
Yeah, like all the life was coming back into the forest, and you had all of the vibrancy of the greens and of the moss as they were climbing up the trees, and the lichen and everything, the little the trees and bushes that were budding, like starting to bloom and bud, it was truly like breathtaking. And just, I mean, it was something else, but it was definitely a nice walk, a nice experience to be able to slow down and really I mean, trying to slow down with a puppy is difficult at times.
Yes. Yes. Because they'll just be like, 100% all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And no attention span,
I will say she is great on walks like this, and increasingly getting better, because she gets bored. You can tell, because she starts whining and it's like wanting to move around, especially because I'll set up like for a photo and I just attach her to my camera bag on the ground, and I might be like 5 feet away from her, and she's like roaming around eating on sticks or leaves, and then she's like, all right, I'm done here. Let's go continue on. And she just looks at me and starts whining. I'm like, well, you got to wait a little bit longer here. But yeah.
Yeah. How old is she now?
She's about 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Have you been doing much training with her? Anything taking as far as that yet?
Just the basics. I mean, I don't need her to be perfect in every manner. The biggest thing that we have to work on is her recall, like especially outside. Yeah. Inside, she's great. But once you step outside, it gets a little...
Just easily distracted by everything?
Yeah. She sees a stick or a leaf or literally anything, and she wants to go after it. So, and we don't... Like, our yard isn't fenced in. We don't have, like, an electric fence or anything like that for her. So she could just be gone in an instant if she really wanted to be, if we don't have her on a leash. So, obviously, you have to be careful with that. But other than that, she's... Down is the only command that she needs the body language cue for.
Got it.
She doesn't correlate that when I say Emmy down, it means Emmy down.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes. Visuals don't work as well for podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For whatever reason, in the past week or so, Oliver, and there's no training behind this at all, but Oliver learned the command outside.
Okay.
It's like before we put him in his crate at night, I just say, Oliver, go outside. And then one day he just looks at me, because he's laying on the couch with us. He's, nodding off, and he's like, looks at me, looks outside, looks at me again, and then runs out his doggy door. But
that's awesome.
Think though obviously we want him to go outside and do his business before we put him in his crate. But in his mind, outside means go and bark at the rats and then come back inside before going to bed. So it does work kind of, but there's like, you can see the gears turning in his head, where when you say go outside, he's like, okay, I'll go bark at the rats. I'll go do it. I don't want to. Okay, let's go. So I don't know. It's a weird thing how he just picked that up when there was zero training whatsoever, but now he knows that command.
They're weird like that. Like just the little things that they really latch onto. Like it's not really a command or anything, but if I tell Emmy about going to the bookstore, that's like she'll come to the car. Like she knows that going to the bookstore,
means going somewhere in the car.
Yeah. And she gets all excited and she gets all worked up. Like if that is the only time that we can let her outside freely without having to worry about her running off, is if we are going to the bookstore or something, or like going for a walk. She'll do that too. Yeah. Because of going to the local park, we need to go to the car first. So then she'll come back like immediately and she's like, oh yeah, walk. Okay. Or bookstore. Yeah. So it's that works out pretty well, but the whole Emmy come doesn't exactly do very well.
Yeah. So what else is new with you? Any changes on the job front at all? Probably not.
No. Nope. Nothing there. I've got a couple bookmarked that I'm going to be applying for, just various stuff, but just chugging along, trying to make ends meet where I can, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like that's going to be an ongoing saga for a while, and unfortunately.
Yeah. Like I said, like I said in the past too, it's one of those deals of, I said it to my mom, I think yesterday, because like my parents they're obviously, I wouldn't say worried or concerned, but like they're not happy about it. Like they don't like seeing the fact that I can't get a job anywhere, especially with my 26th coming up. Like I'm going to be losing health insurance from them. So that's like a huge thing. And
Yeah.
so they're actively like talking to different coworkers and people that they know and trying to figure out different things and all of that. But like I said to my mom, I'm like, I just don't know if this is the universe, if you want to believe in that. And I really typically don't, but universe, fate, whatever, saying just get off your ass and make this work, this whole photography thing work, and run with it and let the cards fall as they do. Which is, it's very weird for me to have any sort of resistance to that, simply because it's something that I've wanted for so long.
Yeah.
Like, I remember very clearly not wanting to go to college in the first place and wanting to drop out of college throughout most of the years that I was in it, at least in the very beginning, because I just wanted to do my own thing. I just wanted to be a photographer, a full-time photographer, creating the work that I wanted to create. And now that I'm at that point, I'm kind of like, well, is that what I want?
Yeah, because there's the reality of the situation as well. Yeah, and it also speaks to the recurring theme in terms of the slow growth. Yes, which I think when you're on that curve looks more like no growth. Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes it's very slow to the point of is this level? Am I going up? I can't tell. And it was weird because I was talking with my wife the other day. I'm like, do you remember your 20s? And she's like, a bit, but it's kind of a blur. It's a weird thing. But like, 20s, even 30s feel like a bit of a blur in that sense. But it is weird because it's something where, wherever you end up, it's this slow ramp up to get to that point, for it to be sustainable and everything. But as you're going through the process, it's a strange thing. Yeah. So yeah, that's man, it's a tough one.
It is. Yeah. I just I don't know. Cause I could get, so the car dealership that I've worked at in the past for most of my college career, I could easily go back to, and I could easily do that whole thing again. Especially because my dad works there as well. So I have that in already. I still have that. But it's still one of those things like, do I really want to go work somewhere for $12.50 an hour that I'm still not going to get health insurance? And if I do, it's not good health insurance at all. It's terrible what they offer. And do I really want to be a part of that environment again because I didn't care for it in the first place? Like, the only reason that I did in the first place was because at that time, I wasn't making any money off photography. I didn't have NPN in the magazine to pay my bills. So it's just a very weird situation where I'm able to say no to jobs like that, where I don't see any personal or professional growth coming from it. But the jobs where, like, working at a publishing house or even teaching or anything like that, I'm not able to get. And I'm in this weird, very odd space right now that I'm just, like I said, I just don't know if this is just that sign to just really get off my ass like I should have been the past how many months when it comes to my photography stuff. But I don't know. Yeah.
And I was just thinking a little bit about the winter trip I went on to Zion, where I took two photos. I was in Zion for, I think, four days or so, maybe 5 days. I took two pictures, and the entire time I was there, it was cloudy, it was windy, it was stormy. I didn't feel like I was doing anything. It felt like I didn't really have much of a sense of direction. But meanwhile, it still worked out well in the end. And the work I gathered from that was due in part to all those monotonous days of it being not very productive. But the reason I mentioned that is looking back on that trip, I don't really remember those moments when I was just sitting around trying to figure out where to go or what to do. But it really, looking back on it is different than living through it in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there'll be some sort of experience like that where, right now you're trying to, grab a hold of things and get things to work. But, in the long run, when you look back on it, like, oh, yeah, whatever that happened, I didn't get that job. Well, that led to this over here that, all these things have to align for a certain reason. So it's just one of those things when you're living through it in the moment, it's, a different experience than looking back on it. And in my case, I don't even remember my 20s. So I don't know. It's strange. It's strange the way that memory works like that.
Yeah, it is. But do we have a photographer of the week?
We do. And I'm going to say we have an artist of the week.
Oh.
So I'm going to change things around a little bit on this one. And this is not going to make for as good of a podcast because there's not going to be a much of a reference for you, because typically we'll look at their work, we'll comment on it. There'll be a little bit of a discussion around it. But this is a musician, and obviously we can't play the music here. But just as a little bit of a backstory, when my wife and I started going on some of our kind of bigger camping trips, I think it was 2009 and then 2010, 2 years in a row, we went to Yellowstone. And it's a really long drive from San Diego. I mean, it's like you'd typically do that in 2-3 days, but we do it in one day. Leave at 1:30 in the morning, then get there by sunset usually during the summertime. But with all the driving and stuff, heading to Yellowstone as well as driving around the park, one of the things that my wife and I enjoy doing, and more so me, the one that discovered this, is that we'd find a musician and then we would just listen to their album over and over again when we're on a trip. So we'd have like a particular album for a particular trip. And then when you listen to that music, you think back to that trip. You're forever associated with it. And so she always had the task of finding the musician. And so there's an album in particular. The musician, his name is Brett Dennen. So BrettDennen. And there was an album he had from 2006 called So Much More. And so that was the album that we listened to a ton on that trip. And it was interesting because I was going through my iTunes and just clicking on various artists and stuff. And I clicked on that album just in the past week or so. And I hadn't listened to it for a long time. And suddenly it just brings back all of that, all the memories associated with that trip, which, let's see, that was 2006. So yes, that was when I was in my 20s. I do remember that from my 20s. But it was interesting because when I listened to that album for the first time, I had no clue who he was as an artist, and trying to put a mental image in my mind as to who he is, what he looks like, anything like that. He has a very soulful sound, a very simple music in the best of ways, not overly polished to the point where you have some of these studio albums that are just so completely overly polished that it just sucks the soul away from it. And so one song in particular called The One Who Loves You the Most is one that I will forever associate with Yellowstone. But the reason I'm bringing him up is that if you go to his website, and he's had many, many, many albums since then. First of all, I was almost a little surprised that he's only a couple of years older than me. Just from the standpoint that, when my wife and I went on that trip, it's just weird to think that he was, nearly our age at that point in time. But he also does watercolors. He loves the outdoors. And let me pull it up on his website. So he describes himself as a songwriter, performer, watercolor artist, environmental conservationist, and outdoorsman. The shows he performs and the events he hosts generate more than good vibes. His impact has been to gather like-minded music fans to consistently try to make the world a better place. But the reason I mention him is that he's very much, marching to the beat of his own drum. And it's so very refreshing. And I think especially compared to the Instagram world, the social media world, where it seems like so many people are just trying to game the system to try and gain something from it, as opposed to just being who they are and creating for the sake of creating. And I think so much of that feeling is really lost with a lot of modern photography. Whether it's, discussions of the algorithm, or, I'll constantly see people complaining about their posts don't have any reach on Instagram. There seems like there's so much gamification of the system, versus it seems like everything that Brett Dennen does, he does because he truly enjoys it. He truly loves it. And I think there's something really to be said about that. So it's a little bit of a departure from the usual, but I'd say give that album a listen. So again, it was the 2006 album, So Much More. And he's just very, very talented overall.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to take a listen to that. It's obviously I can't speak on it much because you can probably see a couple pictures on his website, but without hearing the music.
But it's been kind of fun. I've been going through and discovering all the more recent albums. But I think there'll always be a place in my heart for that 2006 album, just because it's forever associated with that trip back in 2009 in my mid-20s.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and now I get to go mow my lawn, which I'm very excited about. I'll just say briefly, I purchased a push reel style lawnmower as opposed to one that's gas powered, electric, or anything like that. So I'll go get a little workout on a nice sunny day. And also, Oliver is barking like crazy, which means I have another Amazon delivery here. So, that's good.
There you go.
Good times.
Poisoning the planet by having multiple Amazon deliveries, but supplementing it because you bike everywhere and and you have a push mower.
Though this one is, so I have a rear-facing radar tail light for my bike. Okay. And after the incident with the truck yesterday, I decided to upgrade to the one that has a rear-facing camera in it as well.
Gotcha.
Just in case I need a license plate or something. So I think that's probably just what arrived. So it's bike adjacent. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed our creative banter. You can learn more about Cody's work by visiting his website, CodySchultz.com, and you can find my work at benhorn.com. For further discussion, join us at patreon.com/creativebanter. It's a place where we can interact with you, the listener. And although we greatly appreciate those who contribute by joining a tier, discussions are open to everyone, whether you're a paying member or not. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you around next time.